Alrighty, are we ready to move into the window of tolerance? So the window of tolerance, Molly's going to put a couple of boards up on a couple tables. You guys can see this from here. She has a smaller version in case you guys can't. So now we're going to be working into conflict and conflict resolution and what happens to us and how to be more attuned to what we need to do when we go more into a conflictual part of relationships. You know, like when we get into conflict with our relationship, conflict is actually a really, really important and good part of relationship. It can bring in more intimacy if it's done right, right? And I'm sure you guys have all experienced this, where you've been in conflict with your spouse and you kind of hash it out, and then you feel much better about the situation. You're like, oh man, that was hard, but like I know you better, you know me better. I feel like we came to some good options and some good resolutions around this, even though we've been fighting or, you know, unhappy with each other for 3 days. We still can come around to some things that we resolve together, right? So I tell my clients, you know, I'm a work in progress. My husband and I are a work in progress. Sometimes we can be in conflict for more than a day, more than 2 days. But we know that we love each other, we're civil with each other, we're still kind to each other. We may not like each other a whole lot during that time or like components of each other, but it's okay to be in a human relationship where it's difficult and you're not on the same page, right? So, but what happens sometimes after trauma, so after trauma, the nervous system remains poised or mobilized for danger. And when we grow up, we have parts of ourselves that have been traumatized through different things. And so as we're in relationship, we may get dysregulated through triggers that have happened because we may not even know why. All of a sudden, our blood pressure shoots up and we want to like pop off or say some things or withdraw or do something that we wouldn't ordinarily do if we were in our spirit-led leader, right? So when we are in hyper arousal, that means our autonomic nervous system, which is our sympathetic nervous system, and our parasympathetic nervous system, it gets activated, right? So this morning, my sympathetic nervous system was activated a little bit, right? Speaking in front of you guys, my heart was a little like, oh, this is a little anxiety producing, but I'll get over it. And so I might have been right here at the top of this window of tolerance, which I'll go into, because I was a little bit elevated. Now, God created us to have, you know, fight or flight response, which is the top part. So that we can get out of the moving way of a bus, or we can, you know, a dog is running after us and we have to either fight or flight. I remember, I have to tell a quick story. When our oldest was 5, there was this German Shepherd in the neighborhood, and he would get let out every so often. He was mean. And I was always like, oh my gosh, is that German Shepherd going to be out here? You know, I'm out here trying to like play with my kid and stuff like that. And so one day Tim was out, I think you were teaching him to ride a bike or something, and this dog just comes and runs at him, and Tim goes, boom, and just hits the dog right in the head. It's one of Braden's favorite memories because he was in fight, right? He's like, I'm protecting my kid no matter what, this dog is going down. So that's a funny, to me, example. He did. Yeah, so anyways, it's one of Braden's favorite stories. But anyways, he was in fight or flight, right? He got his autonomic nervous system was activated. But sometimes we get activated in our relationship without recognizing or even like a specific reason why we are. Like maybe we're getting into a conflict and we don't feel understood. And then all of a sudden we're just like, oh my gosh, you are not hearing me. Tim, do you mind helping her out? So we can feel emotionally overwhelmed, panic, impulsive, hypervigilant, defensive, feeling unsafe, reactive, angry, racing thoughts. So when we get up here, and maybe some of you even have felt that, obviously probably in business, right? I know that I have felt that way in a session before when I have a really activated client. When I have activated clients that come into the session, generally, I'm recognizing regulation myself, right? Because when somebody else is dysregulated, generally we pick up that energy, right? Because emotions are energy. You can walk into a room where there was a couple that was fighting, then you might not have heard a word, but you're like, ooh, something happened in here, right? So there's that energy that's kind of unspoken. So when people come into my office and they are dysregulated, and I can tell they are what I call out of the window of tolerance. So this is being in fight or flight. The window of tolerance is even strong feelings and reactions are tolerable. We can think and feel simultaneously. Our reactions adapt to fit the situation. So we can be maybe be triggered by something, but if we're in the window of tolerance, we're able to handle it. If we get triggered to a point of dysregulation, it's okay if we go to the top of the window or we go to the bottom of the window, which is hypoarousal, which is feeling numb, dead, passive, no energy, feeling unsafe, hard to think, disconnected, shut down, not present, ashamed, unable to say no. So what happens when we get triggered, if we get triggered outside of the window, what goes up must come down. So we're going to go up here. And if you've ever been, we've all been triggered or in a crisis, or something's happened, like your kid breaks their arm and you're like, oh my gosh, like you go into fight or flight. You go into like, I'm going to fix this. And our autonomic nervous system goes up. Well, if it goes up, you're going to have a crash at some point. You're going to feel like, oh my gosh, wow, that was so exhausting. Maybe it's 2 or 3 hours later, but you're just exhausted. So some people live in this chronic state of up and down. And so our job as therapists is to help people stay in this optimal arousal zone or this window of tolerance. And so if you are outside of this window, which everybody does in marriage, I got into it not long ago where I just got totally overwhelmed and flooded. And I stepped away. I literally just moved away and just had to have a minute and realized, man, I just got totally flooded up here into this window. So when this happens, we want to be able to regulate ourselves. How do we regulate ourselves? Sometimes it's with our spouse, it might need me like, hey, I'm feeling really dysregulated. I am owning how I feel. I don't know how you feel, but I know how I feel. And I'm feeling, we're having a normal conversation, but this is somehow activating me, or it feels like your voice is raised and somehow that's triggering me. I need to take a second. So we are responsible for taking care of ourselves. We can gently ask our spouse or partner, like, hey, it seems like, you're really getting activated. Do we need to take a minute, right? Because sometimes when we're up here, our thoughts and our thoughts and how we're feeling and acting are offline. Our amygdala, which is the emotional memory center of our brain, is all of a sudden just not working, and we're offline, and we need to be able to come down, get grounded, and go back into our spirit-led self as much as we can. And sometimes that means, hey, I need an hour, or this is not going to get resolved today, and we have a busy day. I'm not going to be home till 7 o'clock at night. I don't really want to go into this tonight. So can we talk about it within 24 hours? So when there's a conflict in relationship, I always ask people to resolve it and repair it as quickly as possible, because that keeps us in secure attachment, right? And relationships are a series of disruption and repair, disruption in repair. Even like a small disruption of like, man, you were kind of snappy. I didn't like that, right? That's a little disruption. A repair is, hey, I know I was snappy. I'm sorry. I just was a little dysregulated about something or was nervous about something. So the disruptions sometimes can be bigger. And so we might need 24 hours. But the goal is within 24 hours, because if you've been raised in a home like I was, where you didn't really get to talk about a lot of your emotions, and it was really scary and vulnerable to do that, I could go days without talking about it. I had the propensity to just be like, I'm out. I don't really need to talk about that again, but you're actually going to know that I'm not happy, right? You're going to pick that up because emotions are energy. So being healthy means we're going to close that gap within 24 hours. We never leave a relationship with withdrawing of, wow, I'm out of here. Whether it's, man, you're a lot, and I'm going into the other room and I'm not going to even tell you why, or, man, I'm ticked off, I'm going to take off in the car for an hour, right? We always tell our spouse, because of secure attachment, that, hey, I am not leaving this relationship. I am leaving this conversation and what we're doing right here because I am not feeling regulated. And so I want you to know that I'm just going to step away, right? And because we do that because some of us were set up in childhood that, man, you leave, that feels like abandonment. Even though I know in my functional spirit-led self, there's no way you're leaving me. I know our relationship is more solid than that, but our younger parts go, that feels like dad, or that feels like mom, or that feels like unresolved stuff. And I may not even be conscious of it, but it feels like that. So to stay in secure attachment, which is the goal of relationship, is always to come back to needs and wants. I'm not going to walk out on you. I'm not going to leave this relationship. I'm going to be able to try to figure out how to regulate. I'm going to let you know how long I need. Maybe I need 10 minutes. Wow, I'm coming back and we're starting again. I got to be out. This is not going to work for me right now. I think I need to go take a walk. I think I need a longer time than I thought, right? And having respect for somebody else's boundaries and autonomy is saying, that's okay. I'm safe. I'm secure. I can be in this. I can tolerate and manage my own emotions with you stepping away, right? Healthy functional adults are able to tolerate and manage their emotions and talk through things and know I'm going to be okay, even if you're not okay, or even if there's a threat to the relationship, right? Because we do feel threats to the relationship, consciously and unconsciously. But being healthy, grounded in your spirit-led leader is I'm okay, even if we're not okay.
So for somebody that's conflict averse,
Yeah.
What struck me was it resolve and repair within 24 hours. So it might be that I would say, oh, whew, we're done with that. That whole walk thing worked for me.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is I can't just then forget about it. The goal is get back to it when you're in that window of tolerance.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you can ask your partner, you can ask your spouse, like, because sometimes, you get into something and you're just like, oh my gosh, forget it. Like, let's let this one go. We were both dysregulated, acting like children. So let's just like regroup. And we don't need to go back and talk about it. But always you check in with your spouse. Do we need to follow up? Do we need to have some closure about this? What do you need and want about what just happened? Oftentimes it's a pattern that we get into, right? Of, I get relief because I can step away, which I can relate to. I used to do that. And now I'm good. Like, I might still be ticked off and it didn't really get resolved, but I don't really want to deal with it. Or, sometimes we can have a spouse that's like, come on, like, let's get this over with. I need you. We got to figure this out. And there has to be like that ability to still have your boundaries and come back to repair.
When I think about in taking a step back and recognizing being in either hyperarousal or hypoarousal, there's a level of accountability. If I'm going to go take care of myself, but that I'm accountable to the relationship to
Yes.
come back. And what that does is if I end up being in that dynamic where I'm a little bit more avoidant and I feel relief that we're just not talking about it, great, problem solved. But I come back to a partner who has been trying to soothe themselves while I'm gone because their sense of resolution comes when that conflict ends. I can help by going, hey, I'm back and I'm going to follow up. I might still be feeling a little bit anxious, but I'm in that window of tolerance and I've been accountable to the relationship by going, okay, I calmed down so that we can finish this conversation.
Yeah.
And that also is very loving and gifting to my partner who has been practicing calming themselves while I've been gone. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's great. Perfect. Any other questions about that?
Take a picture of that before you take it.
Yeah, yeah. You guys can all take pictures of any of the flip chart that I have. Jonathan, there's also a flip chart. I've known Jonathan since he was my son Braden's age. They grew up together, so dear to my heart, him and Sarah. Yeah, so you guys are welcome to take pictures of these. I like this. This is a ideal conflict point. This is about constructive versus destructive conflict, right? So right in the middle is where we want to be. Destructive can be mean-spirited with personal attacks. It can also be walking out on the relationship. It can be a few things that I'm going to go over here about the 5 losing strategies of marriage. And then artificial harmony is kind of like, oh, we're really okay. We had a little fight. Let's just pretend let's move on. But we're not really getting to the heart of intimacy, of me seeing into you and you seeing into me, and us really talking through what happened and what our own experiences and feelings were about that.